Hey everybody, today I wanted to give you a tour of my live keyboard setup. As you know, I've been a professional keyboard player for many years, and over the years I've had lots of different keyboards and keyboard rigs and setups that I've used on gigs, and I'm constantly changing things up. I'm adding a keyboard here and getting a new one or an old one and taking it away, and laptops and pedals and all sorts of stuff. So I thought I'd take a minute to show you around the current live setup or a version of it and show you how it all works. So here I have a version of the live rig set up in my basement. There's kind of a lot of stuff back here is where my normal studio setup is, but what I've done is I've actually set up several keyboards. I don't always use all of these at one time, but I set them up in a configuration to hopefully demonstrate some interesting things. So, well, I'll start with just the various keyboard instruments. On the bottom, the centerpiece of the rig is a Yamaha Motif XS8. So it's a fully weighted 88 key controller. On top of that, we have a Roland VR09. Over here to the right is a Dave Smith Prophet 08. So this is the version 1, not the Rev 2. And over here on my right is a Korg SV1. This is the first one. On the bottom, and then on top is a Moog Subsequent 37. All of these keyboards are being run through a Mackie 1402. You can see I've got the Motif running through 2 channels here, the SV1 through 2 channels here. I'm using the XLR outputs on it. And the Moog, the VR, the Prophet, and then I also have a MacBook running Mainstage. We'll be talking about that a little bit too. I don't usually have a great big screen like this when I play live, but my screen is a bit on the fritz. As you can see, the screen is messed up. So all of these synths are going through this Mackie. I'm getting some effects from this TC Electronics M350 for some reverb and delay. And this trusty M Audio MIDI Sport 4x4 is my MIDI interface for these keyboards. I'm also using these, most of these have a USB MIDI output as well. So I'm actually using the MIDI or the USB on the VR09 instead of the 5-pin MIDI. I've got a couple other things in this rack, but I'm not using them. This pretty old Motu MIDI Express and a Behringer line mixer, but those are not in use at the moment. Now, for monitoring all of this here in the studio, I come out of the Mackie into a set of KRK Rocket 5 near-field monitors that I have positioned on either side of the setup. That way I can hear the stereo mix of the rig. Of course, I don't take those with me to gigs. I take a Roland KC100 4-channel keyboard amp, and I have it on a neat little stand that's pretty handy. I think I have 3 or 4 of these things. I love them. Anyway, that's the setup. That's the physical setup of the rig. So for most gigs, I don't really have to use all of this stuff, the laptop and everything. I primarily use just 2 keyboards, this Motif and this VR09. More recently, I've been using the SV1 and the VR09, but the Motif is pretty heavy, but it does a lot of stuff. I barely scratched the surface. There's lots of programming and sequencing and things that you can do with it. I primarily use it just for stacks of sounds and splits. So I've got, I don't know, probably about, 40 programmed presets that have some kind of a piano, or that's a piano and a brass sound or something like that. Here's a piano. Let me get just the piano. You can layer whatever you want with these faders. A typical type of thing for a workstation type of board like this. This is fairly old. I think it's 2007, so the technology is a little old, but it still sounds really good. This is, like I said, just a greatest hits of sounds that could be used for wedding gigs and things like that. So there's a pad and a Rhodes, like a split. And all sorts of things, Rhodes, Wurlitzers, really just a great big toolbox full of sounds. So strings, accordion. Anyway, I could pretty much do any gig with just this keyboard, I think, if I had to. Up here, the reason I have this is because it's got pretty good Hammond sounds. It's got these physical drawbars. It's a lot cheaper than a Nord, so no offense, Nord lovers, but I really, for the price point, this thing. And the thing is really lightweight. It's about 10 pounds. And it's got more than just organs, but that's the main reason I use it. I could go very quickly to synth brass and some other sounds. This is a bit of a weekend warrior type of keyboard, and I really love it. I've had like 3 of them. Anyway, between the 2 of these keyboards, I can handle most anything that comes my way. Again, like I mentioned, I've actually been using the SV1 a lot more lately because I don't really need all of this horsepower. I don't need all of these sounds. I really need piano, Rhodes, and Wurlitzer, and that's what this thing is really great for. And I can get to them really quickly with these presets on the front. It sounds like this is a much lighter keyboard than the Motif. So between the VRO9 and the SV1, I can handle most sort of around town gigs pretty easily. So that's the main rig. It's the Motif and the VRO9. So this handles, like I said, pianos, Wurlitzers, string pads. You can handle anything, but that's mostly what I use it. Then up top, mostly organs, and I can use strings and horns and synth lines and leads, but that's usually the breakdown. Pianos down here and organs up here. Now sometimes I'll add a third keyboard, and that in the past has been this Moog Subsequent 37. And so in that case, I would use it primarily as a lead instrument. So and I could do some sound effects and things like that. But it's a nice little nice to have that I would add to the 2 keyboard configuration. So it's not something I would have to have on a gig. And sometimes if I need a third keyboard, I might use this as a solo. It's basically like a solo instrument. Of course, it's got other sounds in it too. I could pull up this unison mode that gives me sort of a screaming lead type of sound. But again, those are things that I would just add on, wouldn't have to have it on. Now down here at my feet, I have a whole array of foot pedals and controllers that are controlling a variety of things. These two FC7 expression pedals are mapped to volume control messages in the motif and the VRO9. I can also map them to instruments in Mainstage, and I'll show you that later. Over here we have a couple of Yamaha FC4 foot pedals. Both of these are connected to the motif. This one controls sustain for the most part, and this one actually is set up just to control the Leslie on-off in the IK Multimedia B3X plugin. Over here, this is to control the Leslie on-off speed on the VRO9. Over to the right, I have a Moog EP3 expression pedal, and a new addition. This guy is called a Wee Grower sustain pedal. Got it on Amazon for real cheap, I think $12. And it's got a polarity switch, which I like to have polarity switches on all my pedals just in case something goes weird. These FC4s do not have those. In any rate, this is set up for sustain on the Prophet. Over to the right, I've got a TC Electronics Prophet delay that the subsequent 37 is going through. And then I've got a Proline sustain pedal for the SV1 and another Moog EP3 expression pedal for the subsequent 37. Now, the other thing we haven't talked about too much is Mainstage. Mainstage is like a whole other world unto itself. Using the sounds in the laptop really expands the sonic palette in a whole other direction if I really wanted to. And for the most part, I've used this setup for when I have a flight aid, if I go on tour or I go out of town. So I'll do all my programming inside the computer and throw it in my bag and just set it up on stage with whatever equipment I'm provided with. So in that event, I have this Focusrite Scarlett interface. It's just a stereo left-right audio interface. It's got two mic pre's on the front if I want to pass signal through it. And that's how I'm getting sound out of the laptop. The way I typically use Mainstage is I can control these patches over here with this small mixer. This is a Korg Nano Control mixer. And it's got a variety of encoder knobs and buttons and faders that allows me to control each sound. So for example, in this patch called Main Rig, I've got just a whole stack of sounds that I can pull up as needed. And most of those sounds are mapped to either this bottom keyboard, the motif, or this volume. So you get this kind of thing. Also, I should mention I pulled out the local sounds on the motif for this example. I can always pull them in if I want to get a thicker sound. I'll do that a little later. Anyway, here's the Rhodes. Wurlitzer. pull in. Happens to have a filter set to my mod wheel. You get a cool little effect with that. I also have a clavinet mapped to this keyboard. And if I want to, I can mix them all together. Nice big full sound with all of the sounds. And then I can even mix sounds from the motif. It's just a nice, cool, versatile thing to have at your disposal. Up here, I've got a couple of things. Here I'm using the IK Multimedia BX3 plugin. And that's actually different from the sound of the rolling, which is this. So I have two Hammonds kind of going. Well, I could layer them if I wanted to. Not that I would do that, but it's kind of a cool effect. One thing I haven't figured out is how I could map these drawbars to the IK Multimedia in here. I worked on that for a little while. I just couldn't quite make the connection. But I've also got a couple of things mapped here. Cherry Audio Prophet 10. Those are the sounds from the laptop, not from the Prophet 08. So I could map this to any sound in here if I wanted to. I just happen to kind of like, psychologically it makes sense to have that kind of a sound on that board. You can actually take a look at these pedals down here. So I'm controlling the volume of a lot of these instruments from these expression pedals. So the Rhodes is mapped to this FC7 down here. And I should also mention that the FC7 at the moment is controlling all of the sounds inside of the motif. So I can pull all of them up at once if I want to. Control each sound individually from these four fingers. So my piano in the motif, Rhodes, 80s piano, and then like a polysynth kind of thing. Then we can add the Rhodes from the laptop. You get a great big full sound. So. Well, thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. And keep an eye out for a follow-up video where I do a proper audio demonstration of this setup. All right, thanks. See you soon.